Welcome back, everyone, to the State Farm Analyst Desk as we are gearing up for LNG. Second time we'll see the fourth seed out of the LPL versus Peace. Of course, at MSI just a couple of months ago, the LCO made history, the first ever group stage berth at an international event with Pentanet. But now we have Peace, who beat Pentanet, ran the lower bracket over in the LCO, and made it to Worlds. Chronicler, how would you describe this team?
They had a really interesting journey, because I think after MSI, a lot of people became big fans of Pentanet because there was such a iconic team that had a big impact. But Peace did so incredibly well after a rough summer split where they were kind of held back by a lot of roster issues. But once they actually settled on this roster, they just demolished everyone. Finals including, right? Like that 3-0 that they found over Pentanet, coming in as, honestly, not massive underdogs, but underdogs nonetheless, and just showing very well-measured aggression, stable gameplay, not really reliant on cheese or over-aggression, playing really well in the bot lane, and looking really good as we get into the match that they're going to take on against LNG.
Yeah, great fundamentals, early aggression, great objective control, and overall, you mentioned the issues they had in terms of the roster. That is, of course, unfortunate. We need to also call out Babip and Tally, who've been at international events before and are really legend in their regions. But because of the issues they had in terms of fielding their full roster, Vizicsacsi is now playing top lane. How does that change the dynamic of this team?
So when I look at, like, Babip and Tally are obviously going to be focusing on them as a mid-jungle duo. Vizicsacsi is an incredibly smart top laner, and he has, I mean, people know him for some, let's just say, highly specific pocket picks and a very specific play style. So what I'm very curious about if we're going into this matchup is, are they going to focus a little bit more on the top side matchup and take a look at that against LNG, or are they going to continue what they kind of did well to get here and focus on bot lane?
It'll be such a big question because, as said, they are up against LNG, and LNG was all about Ale in the later games on Jax versus Hanwha Life Esports in the opening game of Worlds. It was crazy, and I think when we look beside what a great performance he had on Jax, it also to me signaled that LNG have options when it comes to countering a composition with things you may not expect, or different ways to counter what the enemy brings to the table.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing that we can piggyback and we talked about in pre-show, right, as to how they got here. They do tend to find, and again, maybe it's Gragas, they tend to find something that they like overly focus on, or that's going to be the key for them going up against opponents. So I'm really curious about that. Again, if you're looking at mid jungle, you're looking at Icon doing a little bit more of a supportive role, or kind of just soaking up enough pressure so that Tarzan can pop off. And I don't even think Tarzan probably had the game he wanted to on Qiyana in this game whatsoever. So I'm also looking to see what he pulls out against Babip in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Babip also has he can do kind of everything, and he's always very, very serviceable and more, but he can also do what is needed for the team, and that includes aggressive jungle picks. Chronicler, after that first game where LNG beat your HLE, what are you expecting from them, and how has your opinion maybe improved on them for this game and the rest of play-ins?
I was expecting LNG to look really good, so I'm not shocked, even though, of course, I will always favor Hanwha. They lost in the way that we expected. The one thing that I think LNG did show some weakness in, and so did Hanwha Life, but that might be a possible opening for Peace, was the bot lane. I think that Light, despite getting a little bit of early attention, didn't have the cleanest game, and with how well Violet has played and how well he's utilized resources on Peace, that might be a possible opening.
Yeah, I actually agree with that, especially since we did see Light in a few team fights kind of fumble in a composition where you're really relying on that Misfortune ult to be a huge part of it. We saw it in the previous game as well with Red. Like, you really, really need to hit that, and you need to have good coordination. I do think, though, that the coordination piece will come in handy for LNG here, especially if Peace are still dealing with, figuring out where Chachi fits in their lineup is all.
Oh, no, absolutely. I think it was incredible that the LCO, after, of course, we all know what happened at the beginning of this year, made it to the MSI group stage. And I think that the fans are excited to see Peace. But we'll have to see if LNG can go 2-0. So let's leave it to our casters.
Jackson, I don't know. I don't want to say that the LCK boys are a little salty, but we're undefeated.
Right.
LPL 100% win rate, undefeated at Worlds.
Kick the man while he's down. Just kick him while he's down.
I got to get my digs in now because later in the tournament it's not going to be fun for me.
Yeah, fair.
Welcome one and all back to the caster desk. We are going to be bringing you LNG versus Peace. First time we're seeing Peace today, of course. And honestly, they as I said on the desk, they have opportunities here, but there is definitely going to be you got to step up to this.
Yeah, one of the big things that we've seen from Peace is kind of the aggressive early game, right? And if they can try and set themselves up for success there, as the desk rightly pointed out, LNG playing a much slower paced game. So if you can try and take this aggressive route, maybe you can wrestle control and look to snowball like we've seen from Peace. Because I was talking to Rusty back over in the LCO and I was saying, hey, look, what's been the kind of the big change that we've seen coming through from Peace? And it has been them finding success in this mid game. They were always incredibly strong in the early game, but when you look back towards like Split 1 back in spring, it was them losing out to Pentanet because they wouldn't get control in the mid game. Then when you come in towards spring or towards summer into Split 2, they've now kind of got control over their mid game and they were able to beat out Pentanet and take this first spot coming into the World Championship.
And of course, we got to talk about the elephant in the room. The desk mentioned as well, Vizicsacsi. It's just an unknown. We do not know. There is not enough information on this man. We can take solo queue, but let's be real, that's not exactly a representation of anyone's particular build or their creed. And this guy could be a fantastic wow factor for this team and for the entire OCE region.
Yeah, and I think as well, like kind of getting a bit more safety, I think, in their team fights. When I was looking, sometimes their team fights looked absolutely spectacular. It was like picture perfect, beautiful. Other times it was kind of a bit chaotic.
Not so
Front
much.
lines over here, back lines going, lads, can we please get some help? So I think definitely having Vizicsacsi, like the experience that he brings, as the desk pointed out as well, like that he likes these more kind of tank-oriented picks like the pocket pick. You're also looking at picks like Maokai and these kind of things that he's famous for. I think it's going to give a bit more security to the back line in team fights and give Violet more of an opportunity to pop off in this bottom lane.
You can see it right there, coach going over to Vizicsacsi saying, look, don't pick Poppy yet. We'll keep it, we'll leave it, we'll keep it as a pocket pick later on. Because the big thing, I think, coming into this tournament, and specifically with play-ins, is that you don't have to be first, you just don't have to be last. And that's the big thing, to have your season extended and get into those best of fives.
That's a loser mentality. How dare you? This is where you need to win.
There's
You
always
win
a
every
chance.
game, every time, no matter what.
No, but that is the big thing. There is we obviously talk about skill discrepancies, but you pick up that surprise win, you get that one little edge over someone. This is a round robin best of one. I've done it again. But, you have to just take as many chances as you can, and these best of ones are the best opportunity.
Yeah, and I think this way there's always the chance to have that major upset come through. And that's what I'm talking about, like Peace specifically in their early game. I want to see if they can get this ball rolling, because we saw LNG, if they're going to take Tarzan on towards like champions that kind of work after 6, like the Qiyana, open up this early game to have a ton of fun down in the bottom side of the map. And we've seen traditionally as well that Peace have been more focused on the dragons, looking to get themselves set up for that, look to go towards Soul Point. So if you're trying to play off of, hey, Tarzan's on a later scaling jungler, we can now try and try to punish Light, who looked a bit shaky. Let's see if we can do it.
And I think if you look at these two teams, how they got here is incredibly similar as well. Yes, obviously Peace had to win the LCO, but they both ran the gauntlet. They started from the bottom of the ladder. They ran as many games as they physically could, and that's how they ended up earning their spot on this World Championship stage. This is why they are here representing their regions, and the likes of Pentanet, which we obviously mentioned on the desk, aren't.
Yeah, and again, when I was talking to Rusty, he was like, hey, look, they looked kind of rough coming in towards playoffs. Like in that first best of 5s, obviously there was a lot of the chopping and changing and moving and grooving when you got towards their roster, but they managed to get it in and working towards playoffs, and then they looked spectacular, honestly looking like favourites the entire way through playoffs. So don't be fooled by the 5th place finish. This is a very strong team from the PCS and a ton of experience, some of the best talent the PCS has produced in the likes of Babip and Tally.
You mean the LCO?
LCO, sorry.
Yeah.
What did I say?
You said
LCS?
PCS.
PCS,
I think
sorry.
you read PCE.
Yes, I did, yeah.
It's all good, it's all good. There's a lot of teams. We got to look over a lot of different ground. But we are into picks and bans. The Nidalee, the Twisted Fate, the Jace, the Aurelia, and the Lucian. So again, these big solo lane power picks being taken off the board.
Yeah, and I think a lot of pocket picks going off the board for Peace as well, right? The Nidalee has been a favourite of Babip. He undefeated on it, looks phenomenal on it in playoffs, so taking that away. And when you look across at Tarzan, I think a few people have been watching the solo queue Q streams will recognize he's pretty strong on the Lee Sin, so getting that away alongside power picks. But LeBlanc instantly locked in for Icon. This has been a strong pick for him back home, and now we get to see it on the international stage as well.
It's almost like he's iconic on it as we look towards now the side of Peace as they move on to... If only there was a camera to show your distaste to my pun. But we are going to see them lock in the Misfortune. And now, last time we saw it, it did exceptionally well. Obviously, that damage is absolutely insane with that double up, and of course with the lethality build you end up going. But I want to see now, with the Amumu finally left open, do they end up moving towards that as quickly as we might see?
I mean, nobody's really gone towards it, and it looks like actually what Tally's going to do is go, hey, look, I don't really want to fight against this LeBlanc. I'm just going to take this big old AP bruiser and look to try and play off through sidelines, set up for the Misfortune in that similar fashion. Now, the big thing that you need, obviously, is the engage tool. So things like an Alistair, things like that really start to rise up in priority for Peace in the support role to allow you to set up for this big 1-2 combo. And I think that's what we're starting to see more and more, at least at this stage over our last 3 games, is a lot of times those wombo combo team fights are working out brilliantly for their respective teams.
Aphelios locked and loaded for the first time here at the 2021 Worlds, and that is a pick that can 1v9 if everything else in the game goes wrong.
Yeah, I think I'd love to see the Thresh locked in with it as well, give a bit more control over towards that bottom half of the map, trying to give a Lantern to safety as well from the, the Galio trying to sweep his way in as well. But Tarzan has his eyes on this Qiyana from the last game as well, and I mean, it's a very strong jungler at the moment, and one that can take over in team fights.
There's obviously put a lot of pressure now on the side of Peace. They got to figure out where do you want to choose your last pick right now, because if you don't pick a jungler, you're going to have a lot of things, a lot of options banned away from you. But if you do not pick up the support, your Misfortune could be left in a bad state as well.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what they decide to go towards, because in my mind, right, if I'm on LNG side, I'm like, we would like Thresh, we would like Braum. They're the 2 picks that we see most often with the Aphelios. But if you're on Peace's side, hey, look, maybe you decide to try and take one of them away, and then you go towards it. But we will finally get the Sad Mummy onto the screen. It will be the Curse of the Sad Bullet time down to that bottom side.
I thought they'd never pick Amumu. It's just been so long, and I've been so excited to see this one now, and it's all about that wombo combo. Peace have put out very clearly saying Galio ult, Amumu ult, Misfortune ult, once combined together, you're dead.
Yeah, and the reason that we're seeing the Amumu rise up is because they did change him. His Q now can hold on to a second stack of it, and you can toss it out once every 3 seconds. So very quick at going in. Spider-Man is way in, Spider-Man is way out, or just follow up on any sort of engages. So crazy strong pick, and why we're seeing Peace start to go, right, let's get rid of the supports. Let's make this Aphelios uncomfortable and make sure that we can actually set up off that strong bot lane. Rakan taken off the board to try and disrupt the bullet time. Maybe they look towards something like a Leona as well, because Leona great at stopping Misfortune in a lot of situations. Or they can also go towards the Braum. Safety, both for the Aphelios and in blocking up that big bullet time.
Well, they do get rid of the Thresh, so LNG kind of been put into one. I will say the Braum is still very much on the board. Has, of course, got the stand behind me, and, of course, the Poppy. I just saw that. Poppy and Kennen being banned away. Vizicsacsi getting some respect to his name.
Yeah, and well deserved, right? This guy's been, well, disappeared for a little bit, but certainly like Splice 2018, gone to Worlds several times. Like, this is a very strong top laner that Peace have managed to pick up. So let's see what he decides to go with. I feel, though, here you just go towards your jungle pick, hide what you want to go towards for Chachi, and it is going to be the Zed. So Zed insanely fast clear at the moment, because we got the change where his passive, when you drop a minion below 60% health in the jungle, will take that extra damage. So his clear is insane right now.
Not only that, but you get this clear in, he's obviously going to be going into the jungle. Can still technically flex, but we do expect it to be in the jungle. But not only that, you now have a point and click, get me on top of this carry, get me to kill this Aphelios, and can get in, get out, if played correctly, so damn effectively, as LNG now start to lock in the last bit of their composition. Oh my lord, the Fiora locked and loaded here for Ale.
I love this. So LNG have just gone, right, you know what, Ale, we love these 1-4s. We're just going to continue to have you on these strong side split pushers, and when you're looking towards things like Camille, you really don't want to be playing against this Fiora. So it looks like Vizicsacsi going to go back towards kind of your more basic stuff, keep yourself safe, keep yourself on that weak side top laner, and go back towards the Gangplank.
And there's more AoE, more ultimates available here from the side of Peace. They got themselves a Venn diagram of doom, but you got to be inside the Venn diagram to be able to get the most out of it. So compositions locked and loaded. I feel like Peace, we know what they're going to be going for, but I am keeping dead eyes on that Zed.
Yeah, I mean, for Peace, team fights, right? You're going to be able to take over. Big AoE, as you already mentioned. I think for LNG, it's much more interesting, though, right? Because you can try and play it through side lanes with both the LeBlanc, if you can get up and rolling, the Fiora as well, try and take over there. Just disappear into Fog of War, look for picks, look to try and play around LA once more. And this is very different from what we saw on LNG in the past, right? We'd see a little bit of attention towards LA. He would try to play these carries, but it was much more team fight focused. When you have this Fiora, yes, you can play team fights, but you certainly want to be in a side lane much more.
Absolutely, and that's where we, Fiora, name a better duo, Chinese Tops and Fiora. It's kind of a history at Worlds, shall we say, and it looks like Ale is the next to step up to that plate as we get the coaches giving themselves their good, decent bows and get a bit of respect, but for LNG, this is an opportunity for them to just cement themselves as the first seed in Group A.
And I mean, for LNG, you kind of come into this and you're like, right, we are the one of the favorites coming in alongside Hanwha in this group. I mean, solidifying a second win is going to be crucial, but for Peace, there's always that moment where when there's less pressure on you, that's when you can play at your best, right? Because you don't have to worry about, oh, well, we dropped a game to LNG, that's fine. So maybe Peace want to come into this and try some funky stuff. You've got a crazy strong early game coming through off of your bot side of the map, but Tali being able to roam Babip on this Zed as well, especially when he hits level 6, can be so potent. So you do have to keep your eye on Peace and if they can make these plays from the mid to the bot side.
We are on to the Rift. LNG on the blue, Peace on the red. The LCO, the OS representatives coming in for the first time in the World's 2021 Championship. LNG looking to solidify themselves atop the side of Group A, and this is going to be a curious matchup. I think everyone's eyes are going to be on see how Peace come in and how they're able to establish themselves in this group.
Yeah, and I think as well, like for the LCO fans, they're going to be looking to go, right, like Babip, this was one of the guys that we expected to kind of move on. Like, he was one of the most likely to succeed from the LCO, thought they'd be a shoo-in for the LCS team, and unfortunately just it wasn't quite able to make it, but came back and was like, right, I have my pick of the litter here. Who do I want to try and play with? And he specifically chose Peace because he wanted to play with Tali, who used to play on Golden Guardians Academy. Both these guys have been to Worlds before. Now you're adding Vizicsacsi into the mix as well, a third experienced player on that world stage. Like, and you've got Violet, who honestly is, I asked Hysterics. Hysterics was like, yeah, Violet is like the mini Uzi of LCO. He was so hyped for Violet. And
you know what? Oh, I'm going to stop myself as we see a portal combat in this bush. It is Iwandy, though, who's taking a bad trade, and this is the double bandage shot we talked about. Iwandy forced to flash away, but now you can see Light with the red gun trying to go in, has himself a little bit more damage, not quite able to get it, and already we're seeing some fighting.
Yeah, the big thing, though, for Aladoric is that now that he's actually traded a lot of his health bar, he doesn't really have the engage with Violet. He's looking for it.
Right. Oh, Violet not quite able to get it, but this is the power of the misfortune. And now, with all this action in this bot side, it's exactly what the Death said. It's exactly what Chroniker and Emily said. They wanted to see some action in this bot side to try and get something going for them.
And look at the two jungle pathings, right? You've already got Babip, who is going to be able to make his way down towards this bottom side and try and look for a gank there. And his clear is incredibly fast. 315, he'll be able to make his way in towards River, pick up Scuttle. And if you have this heavy trading, it favors Peace, because you look at where this Qiyana is, Tarzan's nowhere to be found.
No, he is not, and we have gotten a lot of thoughts on the meta from you, Dag. And you know what? I want to hear from the rest of the world. I want to see from the Verizon 5G all chat, what do you guys think of the meta? Who do you think is going to win? Because right now, it's just looking like pure chaos, and I love it. No, you're not allowed to talk anymore.
I wasn't sure, to be honest. I was kind of like, oh,
I am not until I want at whoever on Twitter to tell me my analysis from now.
Perfect, gotcha. I mean, it's where the best analysis comes from, a second to Reddit. But topside.
Absolutely, topside. Vizicsacsi now getting his first little taste of the LNG top duo with the jungle. First blood going over to Ale.
And it's nice to see Tarzan at least having a little bit more control in this game. Like, you have the Qiyana where we were looking going, okay, cool. Yeah, in the game number 1, didn't have the biggest impact. We kind of set behind. Now, though, instantly moves up top level 3, gets that pick, gets control after skipping. You can see both the Herald, the Scuttle, no, next one, Wolves, and also Crop getting up towards the top side. Yeah, it's been a bit much. But the Qiyana now in that top side, picking it up and having a bit more impact. Kills early on assassins are crazy good, especially when you're playing against another assassin, because oftentimes it does come down to that one-shot potential. Babip still has the advantage at the moment. Tarzan will have to be safe, but it will help out a little bit.
Aladoric coming in towards this mid lane. Does have 2 in the chamber to be able to kind of get himself on top. They will get the taunt down and actually a little bit damaged. The ignite is actually not available. It's actually just a little bit of grievous wounds, and Tali will just about survive. Icon almost getting the solo kill.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if Icon was actually just going to pop the pot there, see if we can get the corrupting pot damage to maybe tick down Tali, but Icon controlling this mid wave really well. And again, this gives Icon now the opportunity to push in, look for roams early, and when Ale's already been set up for success, maybe he helps out Light and Iwandy, or just continues to double down on this Fiora, who is a win condition in and of herself.
Definitely seeing Peace on the back foot. They've got themselves a little bit to deal with, but with Babip now roaming up towards this top side. No level 6 yet, so no death mark just available. So bursting down Ale is going to be a little bit difficult. Just going to opt in now to try and get a thing. And you can see there, he's level 4, and he's got himself a, pretty decent setup now to kind of give himself opportunities and moments where he can just roam into a lane and see if he can catch someone off guard.
Yeah, it's kind of hard though, right? Because you've already got a push in top lane right now for Vizicsacsi, so he's more kind of just sitting there saying, hey, look, maybe I can sit with Ale. Bot lane playing relatively safe as well, but you can see, like, right, you get the Tarzan on this bottom side. Light instantly starts to push this in, going to be looking for getting a bit of control in this bot lane. So LNG playing around their wave states well and making sure that there isn't a huge amount of opportunity for Babip to make these plays.
See where it ends up kind of going. Icon getting himself about a 10 to 15 CS lead into that mid lane. Of course, kind of to be expected. Galio, as you said, just waiting to just soak up that pressure and move when he hits that level 6.
Yeah, and I'm curious how he'll work with Babip, right? Because you can look to try and invade into the jungle, look to pick off the Qiyana. You have the advantage in the 1v1 for Babip, but I think that's why it'll be interesting to see if these assassins stay in meta, because I'm curious, if you don't get a couple of kills, you don't get the ball rolling, how useful are you going to be? Is Babip staying a long time around this bottom side? But Light and Iwandy are well aware that there's some trickery going on.
And no flash onto Iwandy either, so they do need to be a little bit more wary of a very fast Zed clear coming down towards their lane as he just goes back, picks up some more camps. We do have level 6s now available to the middle laners. Junglers should not be far behind, neither should the top laners. As now Tarzan, he's going for a long walk. He's got himself an opportunity, but this time around, Vizicsacsi says, I got a ward.
Yeah, unfortunately, Icon isn't able to get control of the mid lane, so this wave will crash before you have mid lane pressure. And even Babip, because he spent so much time down on this bot side, is actually rotating up towards top. So definitely don't want to overextend here as LNG and find yourself caught out, but maybe Tarzan has a different idea.
He's not level 6 just yet, and you will have the grand challenge coming down. They have no idea that Tarzan is here, but there's a hell of a lot of minions coming in, so they're going to try and take him down. He flashes away. Nicely done there by him to try and keep himself alive. Tarzan tanking up just the perfect amount, and that is another quick kill into the top lane.
And LNG just read the play well. If you actually look in the mid lane, Tali and Babip had actually roamed down towards the bottom side, looking at trying to pick up this dragon, so it gave that moment for LNG to find more kills on towards Ale. And sorry, before you visit Chachi, welcome back to the main stage, and you're getting beaten across.
Yeah, this is quite the debut. Vizicsacsi had to TP back into this top side because he was going to lose far too much. Ale unafraid, knowing that he's doing so damn much. We can have a look now at the live view. Look at the goal difference already. It's just Ale all the way to the bank.
Yeah, and like, yes, Gangplank can kind of work off of some lower economy because of his passive, but this is ridiculous. This Gangplank so far behind, and again, we were saying, hey, look, Ale, this Fiora's come into meta for a reason. She's insanely strong in side lanes, can have some impacts in team fights as well, and when you're this far ahead with both turret plates taken on top side as well, this Fiora is going to be massive in this mid game.
And we're going to see Tarzan get spotted out on a ward and just use Iwandy, who has now hit his level 6 as well. Oh, sorry, excuse me, he's still on level 5, so still waiting for the solar flares. We can see there Tali just getting pushed back by Icon, but now when you're getting a couple of levels into the Winds of War, you should be able to take down these minion waves, but not without a little bit of punishment from Icon.
Yeah, at least Tali now more situated in the mid lane, so might be able to help out himself, or help out Vizicsacsi if we see more plays topside, because honestly I wouldn't be surprised to see Tarzan like clear bot side, go back up top, look to try and dive again, especially 8 minutes now on the board. You got Rift Herald, you can try and take up that top side as well. LNG will be definitely looking to snowball the advantage they have on Ale.
And we see already both supports just roaming in saying, all right, calm down. Nothing needs to go down right now, as we can see Babip now starting up the Rift Herald. So good to get that one sneakily started up. But there are a lot of people on this top side. The one big thing, though, is Light has not roamed and Violet has.
Yeah, I think Light now should be able to push in. Chances are, like you usually see around this, you have red-white on your guns, so can try and take the terror. But Babip kind of secretly taking that meant that he was in a pretty good spot. But Light taking this incredibly so, not trying to push the wave and answer for the turret plates on bot side, which honestly I think is a bit of a mistake from LNG.
A little bit of a misstep there, LNG, and they take a slower tempo game. We saw it against Hanwha Light earlier today, and they're not really that worried about it. They're Grand just picking up a couple of extra bits of CS for Light, and Ale knows that he's totally fine in this top side. And this wave's actually in a pretty terrible state. If Ale wanted to freeze it, he could, but he's not going to. He's going to push it immediately.
Yeah, I'm keeping my eyes on where Iwandy is, because look at where he's roaming right now. He's going to be moving straight up towards this top side, right as we get this full push coming in into the mid lane as well. You're also going to have Icon, who's also pushed in that mid wave. This is going to be dive number 3 for Vizicsacsi, and I am so sorry, buddy. This is not looking good for you.
He has to give up all of this wave. He's going to use the Cannon Barrage. That's a global team fight tool they've had to use just to try and soak up this wave. He will not lose the tower just yet. Ale will tank a turret shot or 2 and get himself out. They didn't even need Iwandy towards that top side. I think they recognize he's got a Cannon Barrage. We just burn that. We try again in a minute or so.
Yeah, the second Chachi stopped showing the wave, they're like, right, he's reset. We're just going to try and push in instead. And you're still denying a lot of that CS to Chachi anyway. So the big win. Now, again, they don't have access to Rift Herald, but I mean, they can still look to try and answer for the plays on top side. Babip, spotted on a great ward by Iwandy, means that they will be aware of where the Peace jungler is.
We are seeing level 6 is being picked up now. You do not have access to the Cannon Barrage, but Deathmark, the hero's entrance, and of course the curse of the sad bullet time. They land it. They're going to go in, and the AoE is good. Violet will pick himself up the kill and the first blood for the OCE region.
Nicely done by Aladoric, managing to just pick off Tarzan and knowing, hey, look, the jungler's just going to stay exactly where he is on LNG's side. They throw everything in the kitchen sink and pick off Tarzan. Gets a bit of control back, gets a bit of respite in this mid lane, but now you got to return back to the bot side to make sure that this Aphelios isn't just farming himself up towards that Immortal Shield bow.
You don't want the 200 years too early. You know, it could be a little quick. You'd be surprised how quick 200 years happens in this game, but Aphelios is just pushing in this one here, has got the red and green, so should be able to harass and just sustain pretty nicely with the Severum and the Calibrum. So let's see, have a look at the replay here. And again, this is just a great opportunistic kill for the side of Peace.
Yeah, and for LNG, you knew that Babip was here, right? So that's why we saw Tarzan hovering around in the jungle here, just trying to play out of vision, but not expecting Peace to full commit with Babip there, and sorry, with Aladoric and Babip, so they managed to catch him off. So really nice play from Peace and finding these moments to claw windows back into this game.
Well, tower going down at 11 minutes. That is just so tough right now for Vizicsacsi. He has to play just keep away, turtling in and out of safety right now to try and get something back into this, because Ale's already got a gore drinker.
Yeah, and the problem was that, like, the one moment you had from Tally to try and help him out, right? Tally had actually pat down with Babip bot side to pick up that dragon. So now it's just a 1v1 is scaled out of control, and Ale is the one that's taking the driver's seat there. So now for LNG, you got a ton of pressure. They're going to move Ale back up towards mid, but you can start to get a ton of wards in onto this top side, look to start creating more pressure, and especially, like, next Rift Herald that's going to come up, well, that's going to be a bit of a pressure point that LNG can look to exploit.
Yeah, that is a 2,000 gold lead, almost the entirety of the gold lead, to be perfectly honest, on that top side. And now you do still have opportunities here for Peace. It is not dead and buried, but that Fiora is going to be a constant sticking point, which means that you need to be proactive. You need to be the ones looking for the plays, and you need to try and get use out of your massive wombo combo. Moonlight Vigil goes down. It's just going to be a little bit of harass so that the side of LNG and Light can keep pushing in. And, ooh, Aladoric actually all right to try and take this trade. It's 4v2 right now. Babip is there. Iwandy not quite sure if he wants to go in or out, but now Icon's there. Oh, great flash there to keep himself alive.
Yeah, and you can see, look, LNG, they're trying to use this pressure point in LA topside, right? He's rotating down to cover mid, so if Tally moves to try and make the play on bot side, LNG are still going to have pressure in that mid lane. They're even stealing away camps here as LA, so Rift Herald gone down in response, but it's never going to get a charge here.
I mean, there's no way you can actually go for this one right now. They haven't got a flash on the Amumu, so there's no real kind of flash bandits touch engage, so sadly, Shelly, you will not be bonking her head. It's her favorite thing in the world. She doesn't get to do it, and that's just a bit of a, you know what, LNG, that's just not, that's rude. It's very rude, let people be happy.
Yeah, one job, she loves it, and you just deny it from her.
Just deny it at all times. But now Tarzan going to keep Babip away, and this is where Tarzan is just very, very good at just knowing the limits of his champion, and with Aladoric having to come down here now, they're just trying to defend their own base.
Yeah. Aladoric gets the engage on Iwandy, though.
Oh, okay, he's used the bullet time as well. Or not the bullet time, excuse me, the cannon barrage alongside the Curse of the Sad Mummy, and they try to go in now with the heroic entrance, try and keep Aladoric alive, but he's dead. Ale with his third kill. Now they can keep pushing forward. Tarzan flashes away, and we can see maybe if Tally goes down. There's a bullet time, but it's a double kill. Ale flashing forward, not quite able to get it, and he will fall down to the turret. He got a little greedy, and he got punished, but even then, we're still continuing on. LNG want these kills. I don't think they're going to get them.
No, they'll end up backing away. Peace will run for the hills. Chachi clearing out that bot wave. Will manage to keep himself safe since he's got that wave clear. But LNG getting aggressive. 4 kills now for Ale. This Fiora is monstrous.
Absolutely ridiculous. And you're not even getting anything. You're losing in the top wave, you're losing the mid. But let's have a look at this, because Aladoric just goes in, he invests everything on Iwandy.
Yeah, I mean, it's just unfortunate, right? The second he goes in, you get the TP coming through from Ale. He'd already pushed in fully that top side, so you get everyone LNG collapsing. And fortunate for Aladoric, Ale got given that CC thanks to Tali. Good jump in from Ale to deny the escape from Tali as well. And from that piece, they're just running from the hills. It's just, as he said, like overextension from Aladoric, and LNG capitalize.
It's kind of crazy to think if he gets that kill onto the Z, onto Babip, that Fiora probably survives, gets the triumph, gets himself back out and able to sustain. So very close fight. Ends up being a 2-for-1 in favor of LNG. They've got themselves now a 4,000 gold lead, and it's just becoming harder and harder for them. But I will say, Peace have shown that they can survive in this early stages, so they need to try and get those combinations going. I feel like if you're just a little bit disciplined on your, Curse of the Sad Mummy, you can find a better opportunity.
And that's basically what they have to do here, right? Chachi, unfortunately, has just... This is ballooned completely out of control. Like, as you can see, 3,000 gold in this matchup. So you basically need to go, right, we need to find a moment where Chachi can push out a wave, and let's just all-in collapse on mid. Let's try and find this moment where Aladoric can set up with Violet and get this combo that we're working off of. Otherwise, it's going to be this slow bleed that we're seeing, right? Ale disappearing into the fog of war, taking away all your camps, constantly hovering mid to make sure that Peace are always under threat. And, well, Chachi, if he ever steps up, will find himself at the end of the point of that sword.
He's almost full item behind at this stage. We can now see the first death mark, and boop! That's not what's going to happen to the Z. That's supposed to happen to the target.
But, I mean, look at the ward control, right? Like, you're not even spotting where LNG are right now. They've got deep wards on top side. You've got full control bot side for Ale as he's just cleared out all the wards with the sweeper he has. Peace have no idea where LNG are, and LNG are being able to play a 1-3-1 and having Tarzan use the terrain scaling that Qiyana offers to catch out Peace.
Yeah, you can see the gold difference over time going ever so quickly in the favor of LNG. And now we can see Tali just cannot do anything in this top side. He's going to have so many issues coming into this one. And the Galio isn't built to try and 1v1 it, but I don't want to hear about what you talk about. I want to hear about what everyone else is talking about as we have a look at the hashtag Verizon 5G all chat from Tom Sonic. He says, what do you mean meta? There is no meta. See, this is the analysis I want.
Meta is a state of mind.
Yeah, it's all an illusion. Yeah. What is time? Let's not get into that. Let's jump back into the game, because it's about time for a dragon fight to happen.
Yeah, I mean, have you got a piece? Like 6k go behind. You haven't really got vision control of the air. You can see Aladoric might even be cut out.
He's going to go, ooh, okay, they get the solar flare out of it. Iwandy going a little deep here, and they're actually going to be able to get the stopwatch out of him. This is just all delaying, and ooh, Tarzan's a big boy, and that's going to be a lot of damage. Babip goes in, but immediately has to try and get himself back out. Tarzan trying to see if he can find a little bit more kills. There's going to be the bullet time to try and dissuade anyone from that little corridor, but the end of it all, LNG are not deterred, LNG are not afraid, and LNG are still pushing forward. Peace trying to keep themselves in some way, shape, or form alive.
Oh, Violet.
Oh, Violet. Roses are red, violets are blue. Violet gonna have to back away from this turret right now, or he's dead to you. And that's gonna be Icon still going for it. He's catching him in the shop! Didn't look at his sides, and that's another quick kill. Turret goes down, and Icon, he's just playing with his food right now. He knows he can go in, out, left, right. He's got light coming onto this. They flash in on top of him. He gets himself onto the double up. He eventually falls down. Good barrel coming out from Peace, but it's a consolation prize.
Yeah, because you've got Fiora pushing bot side for Ale. You've got Tarzan who's taking the dragon at the same point in time as well. LNG are just playing out the map beautifully, and here comes the dive.
Ale was not a part of the last fight, has the grand challenge, and even with the flash over the wall, nothing you can do.
God, this is statements from LNG and certainly from Ale. Like 2 games in a row now, he has set himself up as the big carry. Jack's game number 1, Fiora now game number 2. We haven't even seen his Camille, which he's famous for in the LPL as most played champion of all time. It looks like LNG have kind of taken on a new lease of life with Ale stepping up massively at the World Championship.
Well, Icon going to find Tali, who did decide to go in for the trade. Get about half the health bar off of Icon. There was a couple of minions there as well. As we see now, they're looking to try and maybe work something out for them. This is where you got to try and be Peace. You got to find these opportunities. You got to try and look for these those opportune moments to look for something. But LeBlanc's just not the target.
Yeah, I mean, far too slippery, and especially when you don't even know where the rest of LNG are, right? You still got TP for Ale, they're starting to rotate up towards topside, and I mean, this is where it becomes so difficult for Peace to contest any of these waves, right? You've got full control on this top side for LNG, might even find this Amumu, but not quite able to get to him in time. You've got full control on bot side as well when you look at vision control, so if Chachi ever shows in this wave, Ale just moves into this top side and dives on towards the Galio.
Light's just
Look,
unperturbed.
there it goes.
Yeah, exactly what you're talking about. They're just going to try and barrel up towards this top side as a 5-man unit. You got the Gangplank there. Babip's nowhere near this. This is a 5v4 at best for the side of Peace, and they just got to back themselves away. They're trying to get Violet back into it, but he has the both of Youmu's in his base just to make sure he doesn't get 100-0'd.
This is kind of violent against violent. It's not a safe space for anywhere in time for this AD carry to be. I mean, between Tarzan, Ale, Icon, like, where do you try and step? Every bush, every wall is a death sentence.
No, he was banned.
True. Sorry.
I completely just like in my head I was like, don't do it, and I didn't realize I hadn't said anything, and I was just like, uh-oh. But anyway, coming back into this, of course, LNG, they're just playing it perfectly out. They know they're stronger. They know they have the perfect items. You're looking at Luden's Tempest. You've got the Immortal Shield Bow now for the Aphelios, so he's very happy to be on his own just to survive. You have, of course, the Ravenous Hydra and the Gore Drinker, like you mentioned for Ale. You're just so far behind, and with red, white, let's fight. You can't even walk into this Aphelios.
I mean, it's fighting PvE, right? Vizicsacsi stayed on that bot side wave, so LNG knew with the numbers advantage they have, they can commit towards top, they can commit towards mid. Chachi now coming out, so LNG will look to back off as Ale gets control on bot. So LNG just playing out the map state really well and not giving Peace the opportunity to come back into this. That gold lead that was 4,000, 5,000, now 9,000 gold for LNG, and we haven't even hit Baron potential yet.
Haven't even gotten close to it just yet. It's only just spawned, and this game is looking pretty dire right now. It's not over, but my God, it's going to take several miracles coming out from Peace to really bring this one back. They have the tools, but whether or not LNG give them the opportunity to use them is the big question.
Yeah, I mean, you can even look at the builds from LNG and just know they're smelling blood in the water, right? You get the Cosmic Drive coming through from the LeBlanc, definitely something that spikes super hard off of 2 items. You get that early little bit of ability power, so definitely looking to try and end now. You look at the Collector as well, picked up by Light. Understanding, look, there's not a hope in hell this game's going past the 26, 27 minute mark.
It's a 5-level difference between Aladoric and this Fiora. So here we go, we're going in. Supreme just playing talent. Their Solar Flare completely whiffs, and that's going to be the Bullet Tide coming in. So they actually trade back to Qiyana. Iwandy in a lot of trouble as well, and that's 2 quick kills, but Icon trying to get something back. They go back in with Babip. He dies as Light flashes away. These are the small mistakes that we talk about and why the Wombo combo needs to be respected.
Yeah, they try to dive too deep, don't get onto the key carries, and it is an opportunity for Peace to get something, but now, again, caught between a rock and a hard place. Chachi, where are you going to go?
Where are you going to go? I think he thought Icon was going to go back to the double, back to the distortion, but not quite able to make it happen now. Even though Peace find themselves a win, even though they get the kills, they can't defend, and Ale going forward needs to be a little bit careful though. Violet's got a lot of damage, but there's so much more on this Aphelios, and Icon is there to make sure his top laner is safe.
Yeah, Icon is just playing off of the health bars of his teammates here. I mean, you have Ale jump underneath the tower, so Icon can get that big chunk on Chachi. Now, they back away, but you're very quickly dwindling in the number of towers that you have less here as Peace. All 3 tier 2s are now gone, and we get a replay here. You try to get Tarzan on towards Violet, but he only really catches Aladoric, which doesn't really do anything, and it just sets up for a really strong Curse to Sab bullet time. And you can see why this combo, we were talking about how potent it could be, but it's just too little too late.
It is too little too late, and that was with 2 ultimates missing, the Moonlight Vigil and the Solar Flare. The Moon and the Sun were not involved in that team fight, but it didn't matter because LNG are just so far ahead. It is a little bit of respite for Peace. It is a little bit of a moment where they can maybe get a bit of gold back into them. You now have 2 items on the Misfortune, so she is still in line with the Aphelios, but again, you're gonna need a mistake. You're gonna need a little bit of a miracle if you want to try and extend this game.
You're gonna need several mistakes. It's not just one. It's like, okay, Ale has completely crashed and burned in a side lane. We get the shutdown onto the Gangplank. Suddenly, Chachi has a whole heap of gold and maybe he can blow someone up, but that's so far from where we are right now.
Oh yeah, we'll be much further as well as Aladoric just getting caught up. CC locked. Where is he supposed to go? Thankfully, it was on the Amumu, although those CCUs, because he's just able to tank himself up and get himself out alive. And now Icon going forward onto Tally. These health bars are low, but I will admit LNG are kind of scuffing the execution a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's playing with their food a little bit here. Like, everything has been super clean. They have full control. And they're just like, look, we are very much aware of how far ahead we are. So let's just try and force the issue, close this out. But now, it is giving opportunities for Peace to look for the comeback. But LNG said they had enough of this. They're turning towards the Baron.
It's not a very fast Baron right now. The guns are pretty... not
Meh.
great. They're pretty meh is probably the better way to put it, but with all this vision, you can start it and then move straight back out to try and maybe catch somebody out. Fiora pushing in that mid lane, so you have not got the pressure of your team. He's already gone back and trying to TP in with the LeBlanc. Now it's going to be a full 5v5. There's going to be the taunt going down onto Icon as he gets not quite deleted, but it's the Gangplank down. It's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, and right into the middle.
Oh,
Your
no,
dessert, LNG. Bon appetit. That's going to be the clean ace, and LNG can barrel it up mid.
I mean, they've got the wave, they've got everything. Who needs a Baron when you can take the entire clean ace? And LNG, 24 minutes, will crack up in the base of Peace.
And LNG will put themselves onto 2-0. They will cement themselves atop the table, and they will keep themselves very, very happy as they come out on top in the first day of LPL, excuse me, Worlds 2021.
Bias confirmed, bias confirmed.
We got him, ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
I mean,
It was a great game.
It was a great game. Phenomenal game from LNG. Sad for the LCO representatives, though. Peace, unfortunately, just couldn't find the way into the game. We got Ale playing very well on this top side of the Fiora. Full control coming up with Tarzan having that early gank. And from that, they just kept the pressure on Vizicsacsi. And unfortunately for him, even the Gangplank, without much attention topside, you're never going to be able to survive everything that LNG were throwing towards that top lane.
Yeah, honestly, I think LNG were just too strong, and Peace, they had moments. There was definitely opportunities. The pieces were there, but LNG just never let them play with their toys. It was just kind of like, no, they stay in the box and you don't get to do it. And they get to play with it once and it's like, never again.
I mean, the biggest problem was that, like, the moments where we could potentially see Peace find these big team fights, LNG just never gave them. As he said, like, playing through Ale, right? And we thought, okay, you've got a big enough lead on Ale. Maybe they look to try and find some sort of skirmish at Rift Herald at 8 minutes, but instead they just gave over that Rift Herald to Babip. They're like, cool, as long as we don't play into this big wombo combo, we don't have to worry about it then. And they were just able to play it through the side lanes.
All right, let's take another look at the Axe replay. LNG's game-ending fight, and they TP the LeBlanc in. They just catch them on all sides.
Yeah, this was beautiful. I mean, Ale's already cut off Vizicsacsi. You've now got Icon who's coming in onto the backside of the fight as well. And look at the damage that comes through between the assassination potential of Tarzan, Icon, also Ale diving into the mix. And I just feel sorry for Tali, who was like, I'm regretting my decisions.
You know what it's like? It's like when you kick open the door, it's like, surprise! Like, where is everyone? I'm in the wrong house. This isn't the surprise party we set up. But honestly, expected result, to be perfectly honest. I think Peace coming in were definitely a bit more of an unknown. LNG coming out with the win, though, was very much expected, and they did what they needed to do.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate for Peace. I wanted to see a little bit more from them. I was hoping they'd find the fights, but LNG just ran away with it.
Yeah, well, during the Spotify song break, you can listen to Burn It All Down, the 2021 World's Anthem, on the official League of Legends playlist on Spotify. After that, we'll be back to break down LNG's 2-0 starts. Do not go anywhere.
They say where the legends come from. You know what a hero looks like. Pretty little flower, won't you sit back down and go play nice? So keep talking, keep laughing. One day you wish you had it. Other people on fire, fire. Maybe it's time they meet their dragon. If you're gonna hold me down, you're not gonna let me in into your castle walls. None of you can keep them. 'Cause if I gotta burn it all down,
Make or break. Make it yours.
Welcome back to World Championship 2021. I'm joined by Tarzan after LNG is 2-0 now in the playing stage. 안녕하세요. Thank you very much for joining me. I want to talk about your journey in the LPL because in a recent interview with Ashley Kang, you mentioned that in the beginning you were struggling a bit with communication. So how much did it improve since then? And how confident do you feel with the team right now?
네, 우선은 승리 정말 축하드리고 지금 2승 0패이신데 우선 인터뷰 정말 감사드리고 지금 중국에서 이적하신 후에 여정이 좀 궁금해서 질문드리고 싶습니다. 이전에 애슐리 강님의 인터뷰에서 사실은 처음에 갔을 때 초반에 소통이 잘 안 돼서 어려웠던 점이 있다고 말씀하셨는데 지금은 어느 정도로 나아졌는지 어느 정도로 자신 있으신지 궁금합니다.
일단 게임 속에서는 되게 편하게 소통할 수 있는 것 같고 이제 일상생활 속에서는 조금 이제 듣는 거는 이제 어느 정도 느낌으로 받을 수 있는데 아직 말하는 건 조금 어색한 것 같아요.
So in game, I'm pretty sure I can comfortably communicate with my teammates, but in real life, I'm pretty getting the sense of Chinese in real life, listening, but speaking, I think I'm a little bit still awkward in a bit.
Oh, well, I hope you can get there in time and get the level you want in Chinese. Now, focusing a bit more about World Championship and talking about the game you had against Hanwha Life Esports, I know you were looking forward to facing up against Chovy again. So how was it to go against him earlier today? And how much do you think he changed as a player since the Griffin days?
네, 그러면 오늘 앞서 있었던 하나전에 대해서도 여쭤보고 싶은데 하나생명의 초비 선수를 만나는 게 더 많이 기대가 됐을 거라고 생각이 드는데 실제로 맞상대해 보니까 어땠고 그리핀 때와 비교했을 때는 어떤 식으로 변한 것 같나요?
일단은 그냥 적 상대한다는 생각으로 초비도 상대했고 그냥 그리핀 때보다 좀 원래는 제가 더 키가 컸었는데 갑자기 급성장한 것 같아요, 초비가.
Well, in fact, when I was playing the game, I just wanted to think him as one of the opponents. And compared to his Griffin days, well, I was taller than him, but now I think he's got the wild growth and he's much taller.
Oh, that's interesting. But talking about the LCK, because you mentioned them as opponents, what do you think of the region, the LCK itself since you left? And yeah, how does it compare to the LPL now that you joined the team, LNG?
그러면 또 이제 LCK에 대한 의견을 또 여쭤보고 싶은데 LCK에서 이적하신 후로 어떤 식으로 변했는지 어떻게 생각하시는지 궁금하고 LPL에 비교했을 때는 또 어떤 성향이 있는 것 같나요?
그냥 LCK에 있을 때보다 LPL로 오고 나서 조금 더 그냥 분위기 환전? 좀 환경도 바뀌어가지고 좀 적응하면서 다시 처음부터 한다는 생각으로 열심히 노력했던 것 같아요.
그러면 LCK 지역 자체에 대해서는 좀 어떻게 변했다고 생각하세요?
LCK에 비해?
LCK 그냥 지역 자체가 어떻게 이제 이적하시고 난 뒤에 어떤 식으로 좀 변한 것 같은지.
그냥 똑같은 것 같아요. 생활하는 거는 LCK나 LPL이나 언어만 다르지 나머지는 다 똑같은 것 같아요.
I think LCK and LPL are actually pretty similar, you know, their routine and lifestyle very similar. It's just the difference of the language. And so I just focused myself. I just wanted to get some kind of momentum shift as I was heading into China. And I tried my best to, you know, always work hard, just keep on grinding and stuff like that.
Right, well, this hard work shows so far, Tarzan. 감사합니다 for the interview. And Jisun, thank you so much for the translation. And back to you guys.
Thank you so much, Laure. Fantastic interview, and Jisun, of course, for the interpretation as well. And welcome back to the Safe Farm Analyst Desk. LNG so far 2-0 on day one. They have now taken control of the top spot in Group A. So I think it's time to kind of look at what we take from what we had as pre-tournament expectations from LNG and what they have shown so far. A TLDR for the viewers who maybe missed the pre-show. They made an incredible run throughout the regional finals to make it here. Emily, let's take stock of what we've seen. I've personally been very surprised by what Ale has showed on day one.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because the way that they've played around Ale is actually still very LNG in the fact that, you know, just in the last game, we saw him blind pick Fiora. He had actually one of the lower counter pick rates of a lot of top laners throughout the playoffs and then also through regional finals, which I think is interesting and also just kind of reflects some of the things I pointed out about LNG. Sometimes they really like to stick to exactly what they want to do, and maybe pick order doesn't matter as much to them. But in terms of how they've been playing around him, especially in this game, Tarzan facilitated him so well, and as soon as he had that lead, he just absolutely ran with it. And this is what you can expect from him, especially in matchups where he's really comfortable in the 1v1. If he does get any sort of help, he will be able to snowball that in his favor.
And the expectation is that with the champion pool he usually boasts in terms of Viego, Camille, Jax, Fiora, even the Kennen, it's 5-0 and not actually as much as a popular pick in the LPL. We're going to see a lot of this top laner, and I think when you think of LNG, you think about jungle mid synergy, right? So it's nice to see that they've showed us, you know what, no, we'll go to that top lane just as much. But talk to me about Tarzan. 2 games on Qiyana, huge expectations. Where do you land after these first 2 games?
I think he is a lot happier after this Qiyana game. I think in the first game, HLE did do a pretty good job of like stymieing what he wanted to do. They were a little bit slower to some of the plays when he was trying to, for example, go bot and help facilitate bot. There are a few timing issues there. But I think with this game, obviously, they were able to execute super, super well on their top side plays. They did a really good job of tracking the Zed, which is super important, so he doesn't end up snowballing. And even in those situations, I mean, Tarzan had such control of this map that he was ahead even with the ganks. And if you're thinking about like efficiency and how much time, like the biggest thing for a jungler for me is how efficient they are and what did they do with their time in the early game, right? And he was incredibly efficient in this game in terms of snowballing his top laner, in terms of still being ahead in CS at certain points when he maybe wouldn't have if he'd been contested a little bit more. So, I mean, he can do it all. And the thing I really liked about this game is that it showed communication with his lanes. But obviously he can also take a more like hard carry role as well. So you can see him flex onto different jungle picks and see that from him as well.
I think it also shows in kind of, if we look at the year for Tarzan, it was first where it was more like kind of the jungle carry. Then he relayed that into, he needed a bit of adjustment time, but then into, okay, I'll play for my laners. But now we're back in meta where he can go on to Qiyana, right? And he can do basically all the things that are needed for the team. I don't want to disrespect Peace at all, but this did look like a more comfortable game for LNG. And I think we can take the most stock out of the opening game they placed versus Hanwha Life, because we're not just looking at LNG in the context of the play-ins. Of course, they have to make it past it. But I think when you're looking at an LPL seed, you're always looking at what is the potential to go far in a tournament. When it comes to that, where do you land so far with a 2-game sample size?
I mean, I said the LNG are still about where I'd put them, which is I do think the 3 other LPL teams, the cool thing about LPL teams typically when they go to Worlds is that they have very distinctly different playstyles from each other. I think you can say that for the 3 top teams. And then with LNG, their strengths and weaknesses are still radically different, but I do think they're behind on certain things. Like we still kind of saw it in the Hanwha game where Hanwha was able to punish some of the things, like especially with timing and some of that communication that Tarzan touched upon. I know he did another broadcast interview where he said, I believe it was with the Chinese broadcast, where he was like, you know, that wasn't the game that we really did want to have. And there's still a lot of work for improvement. So I'll be curious to see how their jungle to lane communication, if it does continue to improve throughout this tournament, because I think that'll be really important, especially since he's a type of player who can be so flexible in how he plays that jungle.
No, absolutely. And I'm just really excited to see the growth of this team, because I think they've grown so tremendously throughout just the sheer amount of games they played in the championship, in the playoffs rather, as well as in the regional finals. So the potential is definitely there. We'll see what happens. And we have one more Group A matchup in store today as Hanwha Life and Infinity return to the stage in our next game. Don't miss it.
Make or break. Make it yours.